because we publish, beloved. Hello, beloved. How are you?
Hey, what's
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here on the We Publish Beloved podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been dope following your work, so I'm excited.
Likewise, especially since, I will say this as a person who once went viral for talking about how a lot of men have meh peen. Um, I I appreciate this book, right? I appreciate that you wrote a book about how we can and should be liberated through good sex,
What's
right?
so funny when you just said that is one of the chapters explicitly was like, he brought this penis as the prize, and it was not.
Come on now, right? So listen, so thank you for from a informed perspective helping us understand that sex A is not necessary to our identities. But B is not what people say it is, right? That it is something that we should be able to enter into and enjoy in ways that feel good for us individually and for our bodies, right? So we're going to talk about all that. But I'm grateful to you because I think that writing a book like this, like Good Sex, takes a lot of courage. Um, and that's why I really wanted to talk to you because you've been all over the internet. And the first time I saw this book cover, and I said, "Oh, who was that? Who's that?" And I should have known it was a Row House book. I should have known because that's where everybody, all the girlies with courage, that's where all y'all are.
Yeah.
So tell me, introduce us to this book, Dr. Candice. Tell us about how you got to this book that's thinking about sex as a place for liberation.
Hmm. So this is my little book, baby.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Oh, my firstborn book, and and I've been thinking about sex for a long time. Like as early as 7, 8, 9, I've been sexually curious and looking for information that wasn't just offered to me. Most of us didn't grow up in sexually responsive,
Yeah.
comprehensive thinking families. And so I didn't feel like I could ask, but I was looking. So I talked about in that introduction chapter how I was looking through my grandma's Encyclopedia Britannica
Mhm.
and I get breasts. I need to know for me. They never came in, but that's besides the point. And then, like when is my body gonna develop? When am I gonna become a woman? When is I
Mm.
ideas about like emerging as a sexual self? Listening to my aunt Tanya while she was braiding my hair and putting beads on it, talk about her sexual escapades with her
Mm.
homegirl, porn, 90s hip hop. All of these elements of my emergence were like related to me wanting to know more sexually, wanting to know more about my sexual self and other people. And
Yeah.
so I feel like this book was a long time coming, but I didn't know it was a possibility. I've always been a writer for as long as I could write, journaling and poetry and stories and all of that. I didn't think this would be my first book.
Mm.
Right book for me at the right time. As my research emerged as a sex researcher, I had so much to say and I was doing a lot of liberation oriented work in the community. And I feel like it was an area that kept being overlooked.
Mm.
I was seeing clients as a psychologist who were working frontline for Breonna Taylor's murder and liberation in Louisville and very actively engaged in the Black Lives Matter movement, only to come home to intimate injustice, only
Mm.
to somebody who didn't see their pleasure worthiness,
Mm.
meeting them reciprocally, sexually.
Mm.
And I was like, this is the book we need. And so this is the book I need. And, that's why I wrote that.
Mm. Listen, oh, I have so many thoughts about this, right?
Really?
I think especially as a Black woman, right? Being honest about having that sexual curiosity as early as 7, 8, and 9 is huge, right? I grew up in a very religious household. I remember being in that same age and asking my mom and my grandmother, who was a pastor, those same questions. And they was like, "Don't worry about that child. Let's." And I was like, "But how, like, I would like to know." And it was not a thing we talked about. Like,
Yeah.
it was not a thing, we were allowed to explore, not openly. And so we had to go and spy and sleuth and, do our own little research, which, we didn't know what the hell we didn't know. We were babies, right? And so I really appreciate the honesty, right, about how so much of our sexual journeys and exploration came from a desperation just to learn about our own bodies,
Mhm.
right? About our own needs and our own desires. So I think when I hear you say, this is the book we need, I want to understand how you knew how to write it, right? Because nobody teaches us.
Yeah. That's an important question. How I knew how to write it. I knew that as a professor, I could not write it for my academic peers and be true to my values. I wanted them to read it, but I wanted it to be for people who would never go look for one of my peer-reviewed articles.
Mm,
People who would be like, "Oh, she was in Essence? Essence
mm,
might have something to say. Who would give a fuck about me being in the Journal of Sex Research?" Right?
mhm.
So I was like, my voice is multifaceted for a reason. Like,
Yeah,
right, there's a lot of different work that we do. And so my language meets the moment.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, I want to sound as much as possible like true to form Candace as I want to write it and sound like a black woman. I want to write it and sound like somebody influenced by the hip hop era. I want to
yeah,
write sound like a really smart person. I want to write it and hopefully the people who are receiving it hear all of those pieces. Um, and then I wanted it to be really informed. I
yeah,
wanted it to be based on evidence that didn't only come from white men. Most of it doesn't. Not the good quality evidence that I'm looking for. I
yeah,
wanted it to be focused on stories. Like I think
yeah,
learn best through other narratives. And so not just the science, but like how the people I've worked with and myself have experienced my sexual self-making and my own sexual liberation journey.
mm,
So I started with the stories, built in the science, and then I wanted it to be practical. Like take something away from each chapter so that you don't have to read it chronologically or in a linear way. It's like if you fuck with, oh, I want to think about reciprocity today, start in the middle of the book.
that's
And
right,
it's okay.
that's right. Mm, I love that. I love when niggas be thinking.
Right? You gotta be
Sorry.
thinking, right?
This is why I love books, right? I'm just like, oh, I love because to some degree, when you see someone put together a book, you kind of see how they're thinking about a thing, right? It's like there are millions and millions and millions of books, and some of them are about the very same thing. But the way that Black women think about these topics is just so different, right? So how long, right, did it take you from the inception, from the moment you said, oh, this has to be a book, to having it physically in your hand? How long did that take?
It took me about a year and a half of rejection before I even got a proposal accepted.
Hmm.
And I like to start with that because that's the beginning of the book, right? When I'm saying
Yeah,
I had an idea and I want it to be in the world through a publisher with an agent
yeah,
and pitching it to people, proposing, submitting those, and being rejected and rejected and rejected and rejected. Like,
yeah,
what the fuck I'm talking about? So,
yeah,
happening here that that's not landing, and how can I revise my message so that it's clearer?
yeah.
What I've heard, and we've had this discourse on social media a lot. A lot of people who were agents, because I was trying to pursue an agent, were like, I think you have really great things to say, but your platform's not big enough.
See, I'm tired of that.
And that was their frank
Yeah.
presentation of the reason why, because they were like, if we want to sell a book,
Mm,
demonstrated an audience. And so I was like, okay, I know I have an audience, but I can't tell you how to make my social media grow outside
mm,
the organic way I'm trying to do it. So I needed to find a publisher who would accept me without an agent,
yeah,
the vision, and that's where Row House came in. So I reached out to one of the authors of Row House, and this is common knowledge. So even though I have like confidentiality boundaries in most of my therapy relationships, me and Tina have written about our therapeutic relationship.
yeah,
So it's out there. And I was like, I really love your book. Published you. Like, what? Who was doing this? And she was like, oh, my publisher is Row House. And I was like,
yeah.
me reach out to them.
Yeah.
I really appreciate Bex, who leads the organization, because she was like, "Now I can't just accept you as an author just
Yeah.
because, you know one of my authors. I really need to let it go through the process." And it's like, I
Absolutely.
totally respect that. And so it did. And then when they brought me in for a conversation about a contract, that was about a year and a half after I ever wanted to write the book. And then it took me about a year and some change to write the book because I got pregnant during the writing
Mhm.
process, had a baby at the end of it, and I needed some time to kind of get my brain back in the writing space.
Yeah.
So it took about a year and some change to write it. And then, it came out February 4th, 2025. So this
Wow.
year. And I probably started in 2021 or 2022, writing and pitching the book.
Okay, so this is I mean, this is interesting, right? I think because a lot of folks, who are either new authors or who are kind of outside of the writing world, I think there's this sometimes we think of, and this I say this from my perspective, when I was a new author, I thought, "Oh, you have an idea and you write the proposal and then you meet the agent and then you pitch it somewhere and then it gets accepted and then you just write the book and then it just comes out and, now that I've written the book, it does not go that way. For most people I've talked to, it has not gone that way, right? Life happens, right? Life happens. And so you have to keep reminding yourself, I am a writer and this is a book that needs to be out in the world. So, as you were on that process, right? As you were working through that process of dealing with the rejection, now having to advocate for yourself, looking for the right publisher, having a baby on that journey, and still going back after taking some time and writing. What were the lessons? What were the processes? What were the strategies you use to stick with it to make sure that this book became a thing?
Yeah. This one was sticking with it was probably the easiest part for me
Mm,
because I like writing. I
yeah,
enjoy the process of writing. It's always been an outlet for me to process things, think about the world.
yeah,
Um, so I, for the most part, write every day and read every day, even if it's in a small way. And I encourage my mentees to do that too, because I'm like, you don't want this to be like a process that you don't have a handle on when it's time for it to mean something.
yeah.
And for me, this really meant something to me, and this was like a life dream. So I stayed ready, so I didn't have to get ready in the writing part.
That's
But
right.
the other parts of it, like the world happening around all of that and the rejection, I will say that for me, certain types of rejection are just like temporarily painful, but they're not deterrents. Like, oh wow, you really didn't see me. That's weird that you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't understand it, but because I see me, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I'm like,
Yes.
"Oh, wow, you really missed out. That's wild. Sorry for you."
I know. It's like Zora says this. Zora said, "How could anyone want to miss out on my company?
Hey,
How dreadful." Absolutely.
right,
Cry to this
right.
man.
Oh man, I hate that for your publishing house. But but what the sad for me, what made me sad was like, man, I didn't realize how capitalistic in an endeavor writing and publishing a book was, and I grieved that.
Yeah,
Grieved that I
yeah,
might not meet the goals I set for myself in publishing because of, capitalism's involvement in it. Because the people I read, and Black women and Black queer people in particular, I'm thinking, man, what fire did you have to go through
mhm,
out here? And now,
mhm.
and I'm like, oh man, in the world we living in? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I think about your book in particular in this political moment,
Mm,
right? In a moment where all the things that we've been working so hard in the last 3 decades to be able to do and say in public, we are being told those things are actually banned. right? Our existence is banned,
Mm,
right? So and this is where I started off with is just the courage, right? So there's the courage to keep fighting these institutions that say, you know, your platform's not big enough or we don't know you and all that. But then there's also the courage to fight for a project that we know people are gonna treat differently,
mm,
not just because a black person wrote it, but because it's on a subject that people are acting like we don't talk about it anymore, which is very, very strange. So have you bumped up against any of that where it's like, oh no, we're talking about sex.
mhm, absolutely. So I was doing some press for NPR affiliated stations at the beginning of my book tour, and the hesitation in some of the interviewers around like, "Ooh, okay, well, guess we're gonna talk about this." Like that type of vibe. I was like, "Wow, I can't believe we're still here in 2025."
2025.
Mm. And it doesn't feel good. It's just, damn, did we do this? I've been writing about sex for over a decade as a
Yeah.
researcher, and I just felt like I was just getting into the groove where the journals were saying, yes, we want sex positive research. And yes, but this moment has taught me so many things politically that I didn't know before. So I'm 42 right now. And this presidential regime, this dictatorship that we're like developing and amplifying right now has taught me so
Uh-huh.
much about research as an enterprise, book making,
Uh-huh.
publishing as an enterprise. It's taught me about the world in new ways because I was looking back and reading for references and thinking through these ideas and wondering why certain things were missing.
Yeah.
And now I see the erasure in a different way. It wasn't
Mm.
that people weren't doing the good work, especially
Yeah.
around sex positive black sexuality.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm having to draw from sociology and, like history and all of these things instead of psychology and public health for a reason. Is that people in my field, psychology and public health, were told this work is not fundable
Mm.
if you don't talk about it from a prevention of HIV lens, if you
Mm.
talk about it from an STI lens, if you don't talk about it from black girls having unplanned pregnancy,
Mm.
you don't frame your story that way, we won't give you the money to continue research.
Mm.
And I see that now as they're choosing word. Oh my goodness.
Come on now.
As they're choosing words that are relevant to my life, to my lived
Yeah.
experience and my research to erase, like that epistemic erasure.
Yeah.
I don't know if my work is going to continue to be funded in the next,
Mm.
and so this moment has been like, I see the adaptation skills of some of my four researchers who were like, I want to keep studying Black people. They say I got to do it in this way. So at least I
Yeah.
can try this way.
Yeah.
And now, like, what does the resistant needs to look like right now in 2025? That's what I'm on. But I see now the erasure as opposed to like it being omitted. It was like it was there and just totally terminated.
Mm. I love that the web app was like, that's a word. I feel like the web app was
Right?
like,
Because where
it
did that come from?
was like bars, right? Because I think what I hear you saying is that there's a certain kind of angle here, and we're both academics, where we're asked to request funding through the lens of stigma. Right?
Okay.
Through the lens of trauma,
Yes.
to provide these institutions with trauma porn to say, "Oh, woe is Black people, woe is Black girls, woe is our community," culture of poverty stuff,
Yeah.
right? And that's how we get funding, and it's terrible, and
Right.
that's also why so much of it is being retracted now,
Yep.
and I don't think people understand that. I think, unfortunately, it's one of those things that, academia looks really cushy,
Mhm.
but for a lot of Black women, we're like, "Hey, y'all, we in the trenches. I hope y'all understand. We we out here. It's actually quite difficult
Right.
to be a Black woman in
Right.
academia, especially when you're writing about Black people and a deep love
Yeah.
for Black people from a place of caring for Black people, not seeing Black people as the problem." Right.
Reverence for Black people's interior and intimate
That's
lives.
right. That's right.
And so many people find us as the cautionary tale in sexual health.
That's right.
And I'm like,
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's why your book is so important right now. It's so funny. I think there's 12 episodes of this particular podcast this season, and every single person I talk to, I'm like, damn, this book, y'all done wrote a book that's gonna really make some waves right now. And I'm like, well, maybe that's because all of us are writing books, right? That because we're telling true stories about Black folks' lives, right? And so, what I'm hearing is how you navigated this process is that you were not navigating it with an agent. Is that correct? Okay. So what was that like in terms of advocating for yourself?
Feel like it was me learning on the job.
Mm,
Like I didn't have any idea about what book contracts looked like. And so I had to reach out to some mentors who had published books before,
yeah.
um, Black women, white Jewish woman in particular. I'm thinking of Lori Mintz and Tama Bryant and asking them like, what was this process like for you? Just so I can triangulate, like, am I all right here? Am I thinking
Mhm.
about the right things? Asking for the right things. And then when I was introduced to Row House and went through their process of contract making, it was a really solid contract.
Mm,
And I appreciated that. I could see the care in how the profits were like broken down. I could see the intention in like if I'm amplifying voices that matter, then I
mm.
need to pay them appropriately and not exploit them.
Yeah.
So I feel like I landed with a great house in that regard, but also those intersecting oppressions that affect me as a writer affect the house
Yeah.
too. They affect the leader.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're a new publishing house, then you still got hurdles that you need to jump. And
That's
so
right.
I'm watching the publishing house jump those hurdles and I'm like, come on, y'all, we got this. Cause
Yeah.
is my book gonna come out or not? I don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Like there was so
Yeah.
much going on in the world and so much funding being taken back from
Yeah.
from our publishing house at that time, and so it's like, learning on the job,
Yeah.
flexible, documenting the process. I always feel
Mhm.
documentation is such an important form
Mhm.
and strategy. It's like, this is what I learned, this is what I didn't, this
Mhm.
so for those of you who are coming up, being like, "Oh, I only sold this is the first week I've sold less than two-digit books." What
Mm.
do you mean? "Oh, I haven't been outside for the past."
Mhm.
Okay, maybe when I get back outside, it will change.
Mhm.
Those are some of the pieces on the journey as a person without an agent. I did have people who did PR for me.
Mm.
Um, so Kelly Taylor at Ellicott PR, Ellicott PR, she was so instrumental in me making connections with the places I wanted to be seen, like with
Mm.
Essence, with Oprah, with
Mm.
Ebony, like places I wanted to be seen and be heard
Yeah.
and be in community, that I wouldn't have known how to do that on my own.
Mm.
So, like, having that made a big difference for me.
Got it. Okay, and so, I mean, we gotta talk about being outside. Like,
Ugh.
I think,
I'm going
Lord
back
Jesus.
outside next week, so
Child, I'm going outside. That's why I breathe so hard. I'm like, "Oh god, I gotta go back outside." Listen, oof, people don't tell you how grueling a book tour is
ugh,
and how
and
it
expensive.
feels like it doesn't really end. I e oh, how'd you plan it? What'd you do? What were the priorities? Like, did you have a strategy where there's some places you absolutely had to show up and others you were like, "Never mind." Like, what did that look like for you?
I reached out to, as many Black book, stores as I could and just introduced myself and said, "This is what I want to
Mhm,
what my book is about. I would love to be there with you." Um, and then some non-Black bookstores
mhm.
that had like a feminist lens or
That's
like
right.
a more critical lens, like places like Karis Bookstore here in
Mhm,
Atlanta, or Busboys and Poets in
mhm.
the DMV area. Okay. I don't know what's happening,
I love
but
you.
they like Busboys and Poets like I do. Um, and some got back to me and some did not get back to me,
Yeah.
right? And so the first stop on my book tour was in my house, in my jammies, as a book launch virtual slumber party.
Yeah.
and my homies and some people who published, especially sex researchers and stuff. We got
Yeah.
together on Zoom, like 30, 40 of us,
Yeah.
had talks about sex and played some music, had my homeboy who's a DJ, like, I wanted it
I
to be
love this.
my introversion, so I'm like, "I
Yes.
know Imma have to be outside. Let me
Warm up.
Yes. Like, we had a good time, and then I went to Houston for Kindred Stories,
Yes.
and I went to, Paris, I did a book talk there, and then I went to New York for the T&T Knitwear bookstore,
Mm.
mm, for the comedy show and book talk there, and, um and I went to Spelman, my alma mater,
Come on, Spellman.
there, and I was like, "If I don't go nowhere else, I wanna absolutely be at my home."
Yeah.
Um, and then I was doing some, press and podcast and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and writing with Essence. Dominique
Yeah.
Luker was doing a dope series on sexual health and wellness, so we worked together a lot, doing some stuff for, like, publications, and then I took a pause for April and May.
Mm.
It was February and March, just going hard, and as an introvert, fully exhausted. Like,
Child.
I love meeting these people in the, like, bookstore, though, because they were, like, vibing with me, like, we
Mhm.
had a glow, we had a blast, and then I had to go home and get me some rest, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I'm back outside, so I'll be doing some keynotes and stuff in end of May right through June, and then Imma sit back down in July.
I love that. As you should. So this is something when I've talked to folks on the podcast about this, everyone I've talked to has talked about
Mhm.
building rest into the plan. Nobody told me that before I built my book tour plans. I just want to say that nobody
How
told
many
me that shit.
places did you go
Uh,
in a row before you said,
oh my God. I'm a Virgo, so I didn't sit down. The body sat me down. I I ended up in the hospital. So yes, I did. I had a major hospitalization last February into March. So I overdid it. Yeah, my book came out in January. I was in the hospital by the end of February. And then as like a fool that I am, went right back out after the hospital. We're not gonna talk about me. I learned my lesson. Listen to this. I learned, and I am now this is part of the reason why I have this podcast as well, to tell other people as a cautionary tale, don't be like me,
"Mm,
right? Don't the book tour will be there, the people will be there, the readers will be there, the bookstores will be there. And we have one body and we have to take care of ourselves. So I do appreciate here, and I'm also an introvert. So it was very I don't know how to explain to people the anxiety that goes into each one of those talks. Like you write the book, you know what's in the book.
mhm,
But also, now I gotta sit in front of these 30 people after they done read every single word and page. They got flags on the pages. They remember every single quote, and they want me to remember the quote from page 336. Ma'am, I don't. Thank you so much. Give me a second, you know? So I appreciate that. And it sounds like we went to some of the similar places. I think what I'm interested also in hearing from you is, on this book tour, because I think we have very different subject matter, right? You were all up and through the South. Conservative and this is something I've been watching on your book tour. I'm like, oh, it's a lot of people in these rooms, right? In places where I would think people would have, clutched pearls, worried about this book, right? You said Spellman. I said, okay, come on, Spellman, right? So what was the reception like? Were there any surprises, in terms of good or bad, where you were outside and you had some interactions or some feedback on the book that you want to share with us?
when where Black women are gathered, I am received well and I feel well."
Yes.
So, all the places where the Black girlies was in the room, man, we had a time. We
Yes,
had
I bet you
so
did,
time,
child.
and they were like, "Hey, girl, in this line right here, this liberated me because when you said this, I was like," and I was like, "I know, right?" We doing, like, book club meetings and stuff and having that conversation. Where there were fewer Black women, it was like, "Okay, this is cool."
Mhm.
Like, it was like that. I'm like, "This is"
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
wasn't like, "Girl, it did." This is
Mhm.
my vibe, my home space, like, and so I would say that the lessons learned for me were that as a Black woman writing a book about sex, there are very few of us who have
Yeah.
been able to publish
Yeah.
in, in a press. Like, I think about Sensual Faith came before, um, now Donna Orio's book is out. Hers is more self-esteem and sex.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think one's coming out in a few months with the Decisions podcast.
Mm.
But there aren't very many that have, like, landed the way that they deserve to have landed.
Yeah.
And so when I
Yeah.
think about the spaces where I have been well received, when it's 10 people, 20 people, maybe 30, maybe, and they're like, "Man, that resonated with me." I'm like, "Oh, you're who I wrote the book for.
That's right.
You are who I wrote the book for." Like, you saw that I talked about WAP and you felt like that was legitimate citation.
That's right.
Like that that to me was the audience, and then I'm like, "Everybody else can read it though."
That's right.
Like, if you understand, um, that I want hot lemon pepper wings, fried hard, all drumette, and you get that, or you can debate with me about the merits of a drumette versus whatever else chicken does. You know what I mean?
Atlanta thing to say. I just like having now fallen back in love with Atlanta. I'm like, oh, y'all don't play about them wings
No,
down there.
we don't, and I'm also from Western New York where the buffalo wing originated, so it's twice as
True.
good for me.
It's
But,
true.
like, if you get that reference, if you
Yeah.
feel that, the book is for you, but everybody
Yeah.
else can read it.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? And
That's
that's
right.
how I'm seeing it as I come on the second leg of book tour where it's not gonna be all the Black girlies in the room. They're gonna be like a cohort sitting together rooting for me, and everybody else is gonna be like, "This was nice." Like, that matters to me. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So, is there one thing that you wish you had known before you started this process, even back to getting published and reaching out to your publisher, all that? Is there one thing that you wish you had that in the bank before you got started?
Probably would have budgeted differently for the book tour
Mm,
because I paid for most of it,
yeah,
and so some of my advance covered it, but I was like, I don't wanna not go a place because of expenses, and so I have to be really mindful of like, "Oh, okay, it's gonna cost me to fly, it's gonna cost me to stay in a hotel." I did
yeah,
not think about that for some reason. I don't know why, but that just didn't it wasn't the first thing on my mind.
yeah,
This is for real money that I'm
yeah.
paying, that PR costs money, to not you don't pay to get into places, but you pay a professional who
That's right.
knows how to connect you
That's right.
with the outlets you wanna be a part of. Some people pay for that, and some people don't. There are
Hmm.
certain, places that reached out because of prior relationships I had with them, but a lot of places, the PR made a difference for me to even have a conversation about something. So financially, like,
Yeah.
that I might not in this first year make any money because I didn't have
Hmm.
money to do the book tour, and that
Hmm.
I would say my sales are cool for a first time author, but they're not like record-breaking sales by any stretch
Hmm.
of the imagination. It's like, "Oh, okay, this wasn't for" and it wasn't for me anyway. It wasn't for financial gain, but it did cost me financially, and I need to be aware of that.
Mhm. Mhm. Listen, the spreadsheets for me have been astounding. I think, you know, I think that's something I do want more first-time authors to really think about, building out a book tour that meets your financial capacity, right? I think your idea of having a book debut summer party is brilliant, right? You can reach a lot of people virtually.
Yeah.
And virtual folks, they will buy the book, right? Everything doesn't have to be in person. You may go into a bookstore and there be one person there, right? And so think about where you want to go and which of these events need to be in person, which ones don't, right? And so I think that's really good advice for folks as they are thinking about their tours. the last question I have for you is, just thinking about the folks who are listening and watching. If there's one thing you want to leave them with that you think might help them along their journey as they are, maybe they haven't written a book yet, maybe they haven't, secured an agent or found a publisher. What's the one thing you want to leave them with before we wrap up?
Think the thing that made the difference, and especially for people who are coming in unagented and maybe even without a publishing house, so self-publishing, is having
Mm,
a developmental editor.
mm,
And Tamala Gordon was my developmental editor,
yes.
and an editor after you have developed.
Yeah.
I believe so firmly in revise and resubmit, like light
Come on now.
and resubmit. Think a lot of people who've not done this journey and like aren't in an academic space like us where we get rejections and revisions all the
All the time.
take personally feedback. Like you take that feedback as love that somebody gave a fuck about you enough to say, rewrite this sentence 3 times.
Hmm.
I had a metaphor at the beginning of the book when I wrote my first draft, and it was like thinking about your sexual debut as a cotillion, like as a debutante.
Mm,
Mind you, I ain't never had a debutante experience. But because of the word debut, that's where my brain went. So I was
of
digging
course,
written
yes.
history,
Makes sense to
all
me.
this, wrote it out, and Tam was
Yeah.
like, this ain't hitting the way you think it's going to hit. Like this is not landing. Cause who be having debutante experiences? Like I'm in a upper middle class black experience now, but that's not the way I was raised. And so
Yes.
I'm like, why am I referencing this? Where is this coming? Having never had that experience.
Same. I'm like, that makes sense. Also haven't had one. Yeah.
Never. Right. And so she was like, "You want to revisit this metaphor if you're especially if you're gonna try to carry it through the book." And so
Yeah.
then when I went back to it, my husband is a chef, and I was like, "Okay, what do I really fuck with food?" You know? I'm like,
Mm,
menu makes sense to me. Ingredients and seasonings make sense to me. And so let me reshape this around sexual liberation as a menu
mm.
like good sex as ingredients and seasonings you get to, sprinkle on or flavor your sexual experience with. And that's what that editor, like that editing, that revision process, do not skip it. 'Cause when
No,
I read books that have not had the love of editing on them, it's like you were going somewhere, but you didn't get there
can tell.
because other people didn't read it with you and
That's
give you
right.
feedback, or you didn't take it.
That's right. Ooh, I can tell. You can always tell. That and somebody who don't read. Those are the two things you can tell. I am so grateful to you. I'm so grateful to you for this book. I'm
Thank
so grateful to you for this book. And I also am grateful to you for your nigga name, Candice Nicole.
you.
Come on now.
Nicole from the
Come on now. Come on now.
Nicole is
I
gonna be
said,
everybody's middle name.
come on, come on. I got three cousins with the middle name Nicole.
You have
Okay,
to.
come on, Dr. Candice Nicole Hargons. Come on now. Thank you for this book. Thank you for putting it out into the world and having the courage to do so. And we published, beloved, you did it. You did it. You did it. Something that most people cannot do or are too afraid to do. You did it. And so I'm grateful for you. I'm proud of you. And thank you for being here with me.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.